Welcome to Blind Cafe's Naked DJs podcast, where every day we expose ourselves to the very best music. Some days we like to shake it up, some days we let it all hang out, and others we just like to stick it out there for you to listen to.
Good afternoon, Blind Cafe Radio and Naked DJ podcast listeners. We're back. Guess who's back? Back again. DJ's back. Tell your friends. That's right. We are back with the first podcast of the year. I'm here at the table with DJ Curveball, Lightning Blind Mike. She's Foxy. She's a lady. She's British. Foxy Lady J, and DJ Tom, and I'm Dr. Johnny Love. And we're here to talk about, we got three subjects. First subject's going to be, we just had a third birthday, but we had to postpone celebrating it because one of our fellow DJs, DJ Maria, had been in the hospital, and now she's home. Yeah! Thank God. And after 3 years, did anybody think we would be at where we are now in 3 years? I'll start with you, Curtis.
Well, I definitely did. But you got to remember when I first started this, I didn't think or know what heights we could get to, but I knew that we have a lot of amazing staff and amazing DJs. So absolutely.
All righty, Mike, how about you?
Well, we had our struggles, especially since I was learning all sorts of new things for the radio station and learning how to schedule, learning how to, basically work it all, because Foxy Lady J over there wanted me to say, you need to have it all done in a week. I need you to learn it all in a week. No, I'm kidding. She said at least 2 weeks, but I went there and tried, got it going, learned how to use the equipment. And then the really tough part came, as in DJing and everything. And it's totally different from being on a microphone in front of a crowd when you're doing it live in front of a wrestling fans and all that, and doing it live on the radio station when you're just talking to a microphone. So it's totally different. And the biggest things that I had an issue with at the very beginning that I don't have now is I would sit there and I'd say, and I don't do that anymore. So really happy about that. And I think we've really proved that.
I think the format change has really helped us too.
That's true. And you're still learning too, Mike. Every time I talk to you, you're learning this, you're picking up on this, you're doing, it's like, do you ever sleep,
The answer to that, no.
Yeah, I figured that. And what about you, Foxy Lady J? How about you?
Well, when we first started, I was a little concerned because two of our DJs passed away, and I was afraid that
we were cursed.
Exactly. And also, like everyone else, I didn't know what to say. I was afraid to talk. And I don't know. I was very self-conscious. Let's say that. So that's been different. And doing the naked DJs, you have to get used to sitting here naked. And I've never done that before either.
Julie.
Well, you shouldn't have no problem with that. How many kids you got?
Yeah, she's only got one. But no, seriously, Julie, that's just our title of our show. None of the rest of us aren't sitting here naked. You're the only one.
Oh, so it's just me?
Well, yeah.
I'm wearing a sarong myself, so, I'm wearing a toga, so.
None of you told me.
All right, Tom, how about you? I know you've done radio and stuff like that, but when you first started with us and we started doing this, did you think we were going to be where we were at?
A lot of potential here. What it has done for me, it's gotten me back into something that I enjoy doing. I'm used to working the mic and projecting, that kind of thing. Haven't been there, done that, but getting back into it, that's been the fun part. And working with such an incredible bunch of people. absolutely tremendous. And we have you, the listening audience, to thank for sticking with us for the 3 years. I came in, I think I've been here, what, 2 years?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, that's true about that.
Yeah, so I came in kind of after the fact, after you guys were up and running and had gotten your start, but just, I've had a lot of fun with it. It's been very enjoyable. Keeps
Well,
me out of trouble.
I agree with what Curtis said. Changing the format, when we first started,
we
it
were
was
all over the
just-
place.
yes, it was a standard song, and then a country song would come up, and you didn't know what you were going to get. When we changed to the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, and then the country, I think that really worked for us.
Blind
And-
Cafe Radio was like a box of chocolates because you didn't know what you were going to get.
And I have to say for Tom, when Tom first started DJing, it's funny because, like he said, he knew what he was doing and everything. And I would sit there and I listened to his, Julie and I were listening to his first couple shows, and I'm like, he's barely talking, Julie. He's not saying anything. And then I confronted Tom on it. He's like, I'm just trying to get back into it slowly. Well, as soon as he learned how to work everything and he got back into it, now he just talks. And Tom does more
Tom
talking
is the
than
man.
playing
I
music.
love his shows.
Yeah, his
I
shows
do
are good.
too. But he doesn't just talk for the sake of talking. He actually gives you facts. I like
Yes.
the way he tells you what album something came from and where it came from and why. I try and do that with the first song on every show. I really like that.
Yeah, everybody's coming into their own, so it's really cool. And that's one thing I just got done talking to Julie about probably last week or 2 weeks ago, that everybody is giving information. We all started off with, song and title and that's it or whatever. Then, Curtis is giving his information. Tom's giving his. I'm giving information, but I'm doing it differently. I'm not just giving the artist title and all that as well. I go into a whole different conversation on stuff that happens and this and that and everything else. So I have my own little style as well. And then Johnny has his style. So it's really cool that everybody's come into their own. And I have to say, guys, Tom, 2 years for you, 3 years for everybody else. I think everybody has really, look at you, Johnny. From day one, you would talk, and I hate to say it, but you would ramble. But now when you talk, you talk with, something behind you, as in what you're saying and why you're saying it and everything. Of course, you'll joke around like I do every once in a while, but everybody has come into their own. So it's awesome.
And him and Sensational Lady Red have an excellent show on Friday night.
He's got and Kathy, they really do a good job on Fridays.
Well, that's when
At 10
everybody's out and
p.m.
about. Yes. And that's when everybody's out and about too. So,
Well, thank you.
off doing.
Thank you, but they actually tune in to listen to her, really. She's the one who pulls them on in. I'm just there for the comedy relief. Anyway, when we first started, I didn't know anything about DJing just from what I learned by watching the videos of guys I grew up with, and that's how I just did mine. But I know when I first started doing it, oh yeah, sometimes I think at least once a week I'd be getting a call from MJ or Julie going, "You can't do that. Don't do that." And then finally I just started rounding it off. And when we came into doing our own formats and stuff, that's when I started really getting comfortable because, yep, I found my niche with the country music and I'm staying there.
Actually, we were thinking about having you do jazz next.
That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's hating right there.
Yeah, I don't want to step on Peyton's toes, you know what I mean? But
Well, speaking of Hayden, though, he's going to be gone for quite a while. He's getting married. He's going on a honeymoon, and he's already canceled out on a lot of shows with me or with the radio station.
So how long do it take to get married and go on a honeymoon? Don't take that long, does it?
no, it shouldn't take that long. Didn't take me that long.
But it's his very first girlfriend. It's his very first everything. And he's, they talk every night. They're not even living together right now yet. When they get married, they're moving in together and all that and everything else. But I'm hoping that Hayden will be, because he's going to have his wedding in in April, and they're going to do another reception in May for his family in what is it, Louisiana, where he lives. And it's just incredible. Then they're going to go on a honeymoon after that. So I don't expect to see Hayden back until at least June or July.
She lives in Michigan. His parents live in Louisiana, and he works in Houston. And so right now, they're traveling backwards and forwards to her parents, his parents. She goes to visit him, then she goes home. Crazy schedule.
So
I did the same thing. You know, she was in Michigan and I was down here. Accommodate everybody.
I came out to visit Kathy in 95 here in Indy, and by February of 96, I was moved out here to Indy already. Got married in April of 97. And as they say, the rest is history. Did I think we were going to be where we were at when we first started? I knew we were taking a gamble, and I always loved to gamble, but I ain't gonna lie. I kept praying that, man, please, let's not go belly up, and let's just keep going and get it going. And yeah, we've gained speed, and we got something, like Curtis said, we got something really good going on here. So
they're called great DJs. Even our Christmas program, we have people saying, wow, we loved your Christmas music. And we got several emails saying, I just love the fact that you get something different with every song.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to figure it's our DJs, because we each got our own little way of doing things. And that's a good thing, man. I love variety that we got. And you know, Curveball, I love his music. Mike, I love his stuff. The Foxy one, she's got some good stuff. And, you know, hey, if you don't listen to her shows, then something's the matter.
It's got that good English voice.
DJ Tom, I don't listen to the praise and worship show as much as I should, because I'm usually sleeping on a Sunday, but I do try to catch the 70s show, or your 70s show, because, hey, let's face it, man, the 70s had some great music.
I love his
blasphemy there, Johnny.
Worship. I could never get, but he listens to Tom.
Oh, no, it's never blasphemy, Mike. I tell you what, I mean, and when DJ Maria, when she gets back on here and gets back on the air, I think that's when we're going to really celebrate our birthday, because it's going to be really something special then, I think.
Yep. So
yes,
praise and worship.
Curtis did a couple of podcasts of famous people, and he got them to say happy birthday to Blind Cafe. So we have all these wonderful stars wishing us happy birthday, and we haven't been able to play them yet.
I have an idea. Why don't we have Curtis throw a couple of those clips into the podcast at the very beginning, and, you know, something like that, or whatever. You know, he does all the editing, so it's all up to him. But yes, so we can get back on track here for a minute. So Hayden does the jazz. We hope he comes back very shortly. And so whatever you guys want to do.
All right. Yeah, Curtis. Yeah, I mean, who'd we get? Snoop Dogg and Samuel L. Jackson, right?
Yeah, I definitely wish we could have it, but just never know these days. But, you know, we got people like Gary Pratt and Soulful Film. I got connections with a couple of record companies, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and got a couple of their stars, their musicians, to say happy birthday to us and even play their music sometimes. Got some music coming up from Heather Hutchinson. She just put out a new album. She didn't tell us happy birthday, but that was a little earlier in the year, but got some great blind musicians and just all kind of people, great people that are going to be on Blind Cafe Radio, sharing their music to the world.
That's
outstanding.
Awesome. Amen to that.
All righty. I think it's time for a commercial break. So we'll be right back with more of the Naked DJs. And by the way, Foxy Lady J is putting on a robe right now, so she's being modest. So we'll be right back with more of the podcast after these messages.
Do you have dreams that you want to achieve but are scared to do so due to self-doubt? fear, and other people's criticism? I have just what you need. You need a dose of the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, where I interview guests that will motivate and inspire you to stop at nothing to achieve your dreams. And always remember, if you believe, you can achieve.
The Living the Dream with Curveball podcast is available on your favorite podcast app.
All right, and welcome back to the Naked DJs podcast. I've changed into a kilt, and I'm going commando right now. All righty, let's see. What do we got on the second thing here? Hold on, let me bring it up.
Red alert, red alert,
Well,
red
you
alert.
should have
Johnny.
seen last birthday. He was wearing a
Nothing but a sombrero.
We was in a restaurant.
But
Oh, okay. Just
and then we went to a Mexican restaurant. They found out it was my birthday, and so they gave me a sombrero to wear, free shot of tequila and everything else. But go ahead, Johnny.
All righty. Hey, how about this? Now, we've all heard about the Spotify controversy, and we got it here in two parts. Part one is all the people that have taken their music off of Spotify because they're Joe Rogan, and I'll have to preface this by saying I've never listened to any of his podcasts, so I can't say one way or another, but he's been said that he gives out misinformation about the COVID, and I believe it was something about, he said some racial stuff, I think, back a little while ago or something like that, and that surfaced up. But Neil Young was the first one to say, I want my music off of Spotify, then Joni Mitchell, and it's kind of followed like a wave. What do you guys think about everyone wanting to take their music off of Spotify? So we'll start with you.
I don't think that makes a.
I agree, Tom.
Well, it's not just musicians either. I mean, they got a couple of podcasters. Let me see who the list is here.
Yeah, because with being on Spotify, Young and Mitchell and all them, 40 years, but they do take up about 60% of the of the listeners because their music, they still pulling in the older crowd. But
I'm gonna tell you what the big deal is. The big deal is this first started. They didn't like the fact that he wasn't going along with the CNN narrative of the COVID stuff, and it was, we need to get rid of him because he's doing COVID misinformation, and they always call it that. They don't say it's lies, but it's just because stuff that they don't agree with. And then when they couldn't get him on that, he said racial stuff. Well, he probably said this racial stuff, and I don't listen to his podcast, but whatever he said, he probably said it before the COVID stuff, but they couldn't get him on one thing. They just gonna keep going till they eventually get him. He wasn't going. Now he was on there saying, "Shut up, take your vaccines, wear your mask, shut your mouth." He'd be okay.
No, from what I understand, he doesn't really say anything. He starts the podcast off, and then he lets the person talk, whoever he's interviewing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And they didn't like what was said. And so since we can't get him on that, we're going to find a way to get him off here, darn it.
Okay,
exactly.
well, here's who else has left so far. Nils Lofgren is one. I believe he's a guitarist for Springsteen's E Street Band. Breen Brown, she's a best-selling author and a researcher. Wendy Zuckman and
Who even
Blythe.
cares about these people?
Well, that's true. I mean, I've never heard of these, after
I
Nils
was just
Lofgren.
thinking the
I've
same
never heard
thing.
of them.
Here's the thing. Very much embrace or the left wing. They skew a conservative. Gets called every name in the book and stands up for right-wing conservatism. That's what's going on here. It's not become objective. It's become this whole thing politically polarizing. It's become divisiveness for the country.
Me too.
It's
Very,
become,
very
we don't
sad.
like you, shut up.
Yep.
Okay, here's Here's a name that I've never heard of. India Air, AIRE, or whatever.
India
Has anyone-
Ivory, I play some of her songs.
Okay, she's also taking her music off of Spotify, but I believe the reason she was doing it is because of she believes in freedom of speech, and for me, it's also his language around
It's
race.
amazing how they always say, I believe in freedom of speech, but shut up.
Yeah,
It's got to be freedom of speech, and it's always folk that embrace the liberal, quote, progressive take on things.
so basically, though, the whole thing that we're doing is giving our opinions, as in this Joe Rogan, thank you. Joe Rogan, he has his opinions. He has people that come on there, they give their opinions, and it's not misviewed information. It could be maybe someone thinks something different than the others, but that's what freedom of speech is all about. And a podcast.
And that's what podcasts are all about.
Yes.
They're about
And
your
we're not
opinion.
judging exactly. So we're not going to sit here and judge one way or the other, left or right. We're just, well, for me though, I'm just saying that he has the right to say, to give his opinion, or his listeners can give their opinion as well. Just because somebody doesn't like it doesn't give them the right to bash that person. Like Curtis says, shut up.
He doesn't have the
And,
right because Neil Young says so.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We're trying to stay out of the politics on this, and it's so easy for us to get into it because we all have our opinions on that, but it's just, so my opinion for that is just that the whole thing is stupid. You have some singers that are woke, and you have some singers that are not. The India Air that you mentioned, Irie, I liked her opinion on that. She said that she's only taken hers off of Spotify because people are judging people and there's no freedom of speech. And
well, I just want to make it known to people that the same thing that's being done to Joe Rogan is going to be done to Christians, and is being done to Christians. Just to throw that in there.
We're seeing that already in a world of change. Hey, end times are coming.
Well, this was not on our list, but it's the same thing with the truck drivers. They just want to go back to work, and they're in a truck all by themselves. They don't want to have to wear a mask. And this is going to turn into something big with the truck drivers.
I think what they're going to do is, well, never mind. I don't want to get into false flags. I believe they'll be attacked and get set up, just to say that.
Anyway, the last two names on the list is Graham Nash, and he's doing that because he's good friends with Neil Young. And Roxanne Gay, she's an author. I've never heard of her myself. Foxy Lady J, have you heard of her?
No.
Well, again, all these artists recording, they're 40, 50 years old. You haven't heard from them. They're not making any. Most of them are not making.
They're not going to make an impact.
They're not going to make an impact.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
They're historical musical figures.
I look at it like this. If you want to take your music off of Spotify, do so. If you want to do it because of Joe Rogan, hey, it's, then do it then. But please don't sit there and, make it, go run into the media and stuff like that, because you just do what you got to do and that's it. And as
Because
for Joe
right now-
Rogan.
Go ahead, John.
The media
that's
got their back right now, so the media's all been taken over. So whatever they say now, the media got their back.
Well, that's true. That's true. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I've always been like that. That's why I don't watch any of the award shows anymore, because it's not an award show. It's a political fest. Anyway, like I was saying, you want to take your music off Spotify? Cool. You don't like Joe Rogan? Hey, don't listen to his podcast. You want to listen to his podcast? Go ahead. Now, while we're still on the subject of Joe Rogan, Spotify offered him $100 million to break the contract with him. And he basically told them, get bent. He wasn't going nowheres. I think that's a pretty good move.
I agree,
Actually,
because
it
he
was
makes
I wish
money.
they'd offer me something.
It was Rumble that offered him $100 million to move to their platform. And he said, no, I'm going to stick with Spotify and we're going to stand behind you, which I thought was absolutely great. Because normally, when these woke people, once they start on you, you're done for.
Thank you. I sit corrected. See, folks, sometimes even I don't have the research done. Foxy Lady J to the rescue. I like that. I think it's great that, Spotify's standing behind Joe, man. I mean, like I said, I've never listened to his podcasts. I may do it. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts I would love to listen to, but got to find time for that. Mike, what about you?
I'm just going to say that this Spotify thing's been going on for a few weeks already, 3 weeks? And you've only had a handful of people drop their stuff, their podcast, their music, and that's it. It's done. It's over. There's only a handful of people that's done it. And with Spotify standing behind Joe and saying, no, we're going to let Joe remain with his podcast, I agree with Foxy Lady J that they're not going to fall into this whole woke thing or whatever. They're going to run their business as how they always run their business and make sure that, everybody is treated fairly. And that's what's cool about Spotify.
If you want,
we'll see if they cave.
If you want to listen to a good podcast, you need to listen to Living the Dream with DJ Curveball.
And
how much did he pay you for that
leaving.
one?
And if you want to listen to another good podcast, you got to listen to the Naked DJs podcast.
And we're not leaving.
No, we're not.
Anywhere.
In fact, we're going and getting off the controversy there on your toes there, Curtis, as host. But what do you guys plan?
I'm glad you asked that, Tom, because that was going to be the question I was going to take us on up out of here with. And since you asked it, let's get your opinion first. What are you going to do to improve your shows in 2022?
The 70s show, I'm pretty well going to keep it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working. You only have so much material to work with as far as the research and the facts for the 70s show. So that's pretty much going to stay status quo. I am open to suggestion, of course. On the Praise and Worship show,
I think Tom should do 4 hours on that day.
No, I think not. I'd like to, but I don't have the time. I think on the Praise and Worship show, I work with some of the best worship leaders in the country. I really believe that, and they're tied in with if you're into praise and worship, you know integrity music. They're on the cutting edge of producing and promoting praise and worship music. They just signed with these friends of mine, connected with Harborside Music, and so what I hope to do is get into some dialogue with some of these folks that I know and work closely with on terms of how worship songs are written, that kind of thing. Want to do a little bit of informal dialogue on the praise and worship shows. That's in the works.
Well, what I plan on doing for 2022, changing it up with DJ Curveball, is coming out with the best music and the best content that I can, keeping you guys up on the new music and playing all your favorite hits and getting as many listeners as possible. Been telling a lot of people as I just moved about the shows and trying to get them on the podcast. I actually showed up here back in Wichita, been gone for 3 years, and people like, so what's your podcast about? Didn't even know that they knew. So trying to use the podcast and every avenue that I can to keep bringing you guys the best music. I'm going to stay naked.
That's fantastic. I heard your show Thursday night, and I love the way you said, if you want to know more about the radio station, what is Blind Cafe Radio all about? And you pointed them in the direction of the webpage. I thought that was outstanding. So I used that on Friday. For me and Michael in our morning show, we're going to add some clips for the news. We're going to try and see if we can find a way to make little clips for the news to make it interesting.
If you guys get with me, I can help you do sound bites. I'm sure MJ knows how to do it, but they call it sound bites. Like, for example, if you're going to be talking about the Joe Rogan show, you put like a 15-minute clip from CNN or somebody, and maybe Neil Young talking about why he wants to cancel, and then you go into it, sound bites.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, you're
And-
not going to do anything about like an alligator getting caught in a tire or something like that?
That's
or,
a
you know?
different that's a different
POW
scene.
News.
Yeah, that's POW News.
And then in my regular shows, I'm starting to talk more about me and what I do and what I'm doing. And like we said, more information on the songs and where they came from. So I'm getting a little bit more brave. Maybe it's because I'm
Hey, naked is always good. Trust me. Mike, what are you going to do?
Well, I do 3 shows. I do Navigating the 90s and Beyond, where I keep the music in between the navigational beacons, mixing up the music on Friday night, which I know a lot of people use the word mixing it up, but at that point, didn't have quite an imagination back then, but possibly I might change up the show, but people seem to like the name, or change the name of the show, but I might possibly change it. My 3rd show that I do is Coconut Cocktails, which is a really good show. I've already started adding some things to that one. I started adding the blender sounds and doing other things. I give a coconut cocktail recipe every show and that people can try out over the weekend. And I also tell them, make sure that you do it responsibly, drink safe. I got to give them their warning too. I don't want someone to get hurt because I gave out a recipe or something. But as for me changing up my shows, most thing that I've actually done so far is interacting with the listeners more than what I've been doing. I've been telling them to email me telling them to, request dedications, things like that for my 90 shows and so on. But I have tried to interact with them more and trying to hold conversations with them while I'm doing the shows and things like that. So the other thing is that we've actually changed, and I'll let Johnny talk about it more, but one of the things that Johnny's doing for 2022 though, is he's taking care of the social media pages, Twitter and Facebook.
Well, real quick, how do you guys like that Simply the Best, that changing it up, Simply the Best jingle? That's another thing I've added 2022.
I like it.
I like it.
Johnny, you started something that I'd like to do, put up the chat room here on the blog, carry that, imitation's the best form of flattery. I'd like to carry that over at least into the thing.
Well, that was the whole
guest.
idea. Yeah, that was the whole idea of creating all the rooms to finally get the DJs to, show up in their rooms and as soon as they feel comfortable and all that. So that's awesome that you're starting to feel comfortable enough that you can hang out with them and talk to them and do your show.
No,
Invite them. When you're doing your show, Tom, invite them. Tell them how to get to Blindnet and that we'll put up a praise and worship room in the direction. And then you just tell them that you're there from 8 to 9 on Sunday mornings and have them come in.
We'll even let Carrie come on in too for you.
But no, so what are you going to do differently for your shows, Johnny, now that you're the last one?
Well, like you, what'd you say?
You're cruising, buddy. Cruising.
Oh man, I'm always cruising. Always cruising on a Sunday afternoon. What am I going to be doing new in 2022? Like you said, I'm handling the social media. I'm trying to, at least trying to do it every morning when I get a chance, because Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm at work, so I can't have my phone on the floor. So like Julie's or like Foxy Lady J's beaching it, I put it up this past Friday because I was in the brickyard building boxes because we had no work to do. So I can do that. So, but sometimes I can't, but I try to put stuff up as much as possible. I try to interact with people, get them to email me and stuff, especially when it comes to the Moonlight Rendezvous. I keep telling them to email me, but they email Foxy Lady J. I don't know. I guess they like her better than me. It's something about she's better looking than I am. But
hey, I even told my friends to email you and all that, and it's just weird.
I know, but
because I'm naked and you're not.
I'm wearing a kilt and going commando. Thank you. What am I going to do new? Well, I know
you need to make sure there.
No, that's true. What am I going to do? Well, I know Mike and I have talked about maybe like going live on Facebook and trying something like that. But I don't know how we still got to work on that, because I've thought about doing that. but I don't know. As for the Moonlight Rendezvous, I may try to have Sensational Lady Red talk a little more, but she's kind of comfortable where she's at. And, but she wants to move out of her comfort zone. I'll say, hey, go for it.
Lady Red probably can't get a wise.
Oh, no, she can. Trust me.
No,
Trust me.
actually, it might be in her comfort zone, but once she gets more comfortable on the microphone, she'll grow, like we've all done. We've all grown on the microphone.
Oh, I would love for her to open the show and do more talking and just let me run the thing. We could be like, oh, MJ and Julie 2.0, except not as funny. But I don't know. I mean, because I'm always thinking of something to do every time I'm doing a show or something like that. So I don't know. I'd have to think about what to do that's new.
Everybody needs to stay tuned because we will come up with something. We're very creative DJs.
That's what I like about Blind Cafe Radio is the fact that we are innovative. We do, we've tried some things. Some of them have worked. Some of them have not. Some of them have been successful and others not so much, but we try. And
Yes, Michael and I used to do a show called The Treasure Chest, and we used to go up against each other, and we had a few listeners, but not many, so we got rid of that.
All righty. Looks like our timers. I'm so glad we had this time together. Yes, our time has come, folks, for the end of the podcast. DJ Curveball, would you be so kind as to take us on out of here, brother?
Yeah, absolutely. I would. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the podcast today and tell them to keep tuned in to blindcaferadio.com. We got a lot coming up for you. And just want to let everybody know we are the station that raises Cain. Until next month, hasta luego.
Go and check out Blind Cafe Radio at blindcaferadio.com and also follow us on Twitter at Blind Cafe Radio and on Facebook at Blind Cafe Radio. Make sure you visit our webpage at blindcaferadio.com where you can visit our naked DJ. And this is the Blind Cafe Kangaroo signing off.